going to be showing you how you can integrate Mailchimp and PassKit together through Zapier. Now, last time I showed you how you could integrate PassKit into Google Sheets through the use of Zapier. So what we would do is we would enroll people into PassKit and then fire an event through Zapier so that data would go into Google Sheets. Today we're going to flip it around. Today we're going to be feeding data into Mailchimp, and that's then through Zapier going to appear into PassKit. Then we're going to do some magic inside PassKit, collect some extra data. We're going to maybe modify the member record, and then through Zapier we're going to feed that data back into Mailchimp. So I've done a high level flow here. Let me quickly walk through what we're going to be doing. So we have set up a very simple landing page inside Mailchimp. When somebody fills out that landing page, a new subscriber is added to the list with those details. That's going to trigger a Zap, which is going to create a member in PassKit. Once the member is created in PassKit, inside of PassKit, we will send out a Pass Welcome email. Now, there's no reason why this couldn't sit in Mailchimp, but for the sake of this demo, this email is going to be sent out from PassKit, since we have Email Designer in the PassKit platform as well. From there on, we're going to install the Pass into Apple Wallet. That's going to trigger the Pass install event, which we capture in PassKit. And we want to feed that back into Mailchimp as well. So then you can kind of segment your Mailchimp campaign. So for example, you could send reminder messages to your Mailchimp contacts that haven't installed the Pass yet, or you could send different engagement to people that haven't installed. And then on the back of this, we're also going to be showing you how to update member records in PassKit, and again, have that data update in Mailchimp through Zapier. Inside PassKit, I've already set up a very simple points program. In my points program, I have 3 tiers: bronze, silver, and gold. The program is very simple. It just contains a points balance, name, and a tier, nothing else. We just got 3 tiers, silver, gold, etc. The program is set to private. The reason for that is that I wanted to show you don't always have to enroll people using the PassKit enrollment forms. In this case, the enrollment comes from Mailchimp, so there's some extra security going on. This is a private program, meaning that we will have to enroll members via the API in this case, and that's what we're going to be showing you how to do that with Zapier. Then inside Zapier, I have all my Zaps set up. There's 2. There's one from Mailchimp into PassKit, and then one from PassKit into Mailchimp when we capture changes in PassKit. So when we get the Pass install event, we want to feed the data back to Mailchimp. And when we updating the Pass record, so let's say we update the member point balance or we change the tier, we also want to reflect that data in Mailchimp. I will go into detail after the demo on how these are set up. Then in Mailchimp, we have our subscriber list. This is just a generic audience list that we have. I have under campaigns, I set up a very simple landing page form. So you can do this in Mailchimp. You can go to create, then say click on the landing page, and you can define your landing pages inside Mailchimp. This landing page is set up to feed into the PassKit audience. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And then ultimately I have my landing page here. So this is the landing page from Mailchimp that I set up. Very simple. I didn't even bother to update this. The demo is to show the cool integration, but of course you can customize this page however you want. We're going to be capturing email, name, and company, and that's going to feed into Mailchimp, and then the email and name we can feed into PassKit as well. I have the developer docs open here because we will need to look at the APIs. There's a bit of technical knowledge, quite simple, and I'll go slow and talk you through it. So let's fill this out and see what happens. I'm actually going to quickly sync up my phone to the screen. So I have a little tool here called Reflector, which is super useful if you want to do demo. And tada, so now we get my phone here. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to show we install the Pass and then receive push messages. So subscribe. Now this goes into Mailchimp, but if my Zap is set up correctly, I should receive an email shortly. And that email should contain my Pass link, because in PassKit we've set up the email, and there we go. So this is the email sent from PassKit. Sorry, I did a couple of tests before this, so my email client is showing it like this. So we get the email coming in here. Now let's quickly jump to PassKit. So we didn't have any members before. We can now see there's one member record here. So we can see here, bronze tier 0, pass issued, and personal info contains the email address I enrolled with and my name. We should also be able to see the same information inside of Mailchimp. So if I reload my Mailchimp list here, then we should also see the Pass information that I got back to all my Zaps. So we can see Patrick Demo here. I've set it up so that my PassKit URL comes in. This is my unique pass link that I also got via email. We get my point 0, the tier bronze, and the PassKit status, which is pass issued. Now, the reason I'm having this up now is because if we pull up my phone again, if I'm going to install this card now, then we're going to see that this status is going to update to installed. So yes, we want to allow this. Cool, we got our cool looking card. We got my name, my tier, my points balance. I'm just going to add this. I'll leave the phone open for a little bit longer. You can see the nice page here on the back of this, so it's now detected that I've installed it. So from here on, I can directly jump into my wallet to this particular pass, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna close this. Now let's refresh Mailchimp here, and let's see if that pass status changes from pass issued to installed. So let's go. There we go, pass installed. So it's now been captured here, and obviously this data was fed through PassKit. So in PassKit, that's where the event comes in initially, and then PassKit posted back to Mailchimp using our webhooks. So you can see here this is updated as well. Now let's say we want to change our point balance in PassKit. So let's say I want to change this to 200. I change my tier to silver. Clicking update in here. Now this should trigger a few things. This is going to trigger an update to my device, to the pass here. There we go. I have 200 points. And we also see now that my tier has changed to silver, as you can see here. I also expect this data to be updated inside of Mailchimp, because the way I've set up my Zaps is that data changes in PassKit are fed back to Mailchimp. So I can do some targeting to my customers based on if they have the pass installed, what tier or what segment they're in. So you can see where I'm going. So there we go. Silver and 200 is set and the pass is installed. So that's really quick and super easy, and also really powerful, because now I can combine my marketing messaging tool with the power of what we have in PassKit here. So you can manage your membership base in PassKit for points, etc. And you can use Mailchimp to kind of retarget members and communicate with them. There is some retargeting, of course. You can send push updates to the pass, but there's also the email marketing you can do. And if the original channel in is Mailchimp, then that's a nice little setup, a nice little complement there of these two tools together. So with that being said, let's look at how we can now set this up ourselves. A couple of things that we need. So we need a Zapier account. Now, because this integration is using Zapier webhooks, which is a premium feature, you will need to have a paid Zapier account. So I'm all set up here. So I got my credit card and I got my starter plan set up. I got two Zaps enabled. I got Mailchimp to PassKit, and I got update Mailchimp from PassKit, pass updates, or install webhooks. So let's go to the first one. Now, the first thing that we got to set up is we want to trigger something from Mailchimp. So in this case here, I've chosen the Mailchimp app. And what do I want? I want to trigger something when a new subscriber is added. Now, obviously, you could just add subscribers directly to this list, but we're doing it through the landing page that we've set up in Mailchimp. But the idea is add subscribers to your list, and ultimately they'll get picked up by the Zap. So going back to Zapier, new subscriber, then this tells me what account to select. I've paired my PassKit Mailchimp to this. And then customizing the subscriber, I need to select the audience that I want, and from there on we can move forward. So in this case, what it does automatically for me is it links to my latest subscriber here. I can see data here, so let's see if we get let's load in the latest ones. Let's do subscriber F. That's the last one we just created. So you can see a Patrick demo as we just did. We get the data here. Now this data, because this is a member, we already picked up because the Zap is enabled. You can see the stuff in here, but ultimately if you just follow the Zapier steps, this will get you linked up. Then we can continue, and then what do we want to do with that data? So we have the new subscriber come in. With that data, we want to do a post. Now this is where the real magic happens. So this is where we say we want to use webhooks by Zapier, which is the app that we need to use. And what do we want to do? We want to post. Now there is two API endpoints that I'm using in this demo. There is creating a new member, and there is getting the member record. If you go to our documentation on docs.passkit.io, you can see here the APIs that we have available. In this case, we're working with member and loyalty programs, but obviously the same logic and functionality applies to coupons. It's just a slightly different API payload that you're using. In this case, I want to enroll a member. So if we go to our API, we can click on members, and then here we have the enroll member endpoint. Now this sets the data that I need. There's two required fields. I will need my tier ID, and I will need my program ID. And then all my other data I can set inside the person object, or I can add metadata if I want. In this case, what we want to do is we just want to enroll people into the base tier, which in my case is bronze. And all the data that I'm going to be passing on is just the member name and the email. So data that we need for that, I got my program set up here. To get your program ID, you need to go to settings in the menu, and then your program ID can be found here. This is one of the things we need because this dictates which program to enroll the members into. The second thing we need is a tier ID. So if you go to designs, you can see here that we have bronze, silver, gold. In this case, I want to enroll people into bronze, which simply has the tier ID bronze. So with that in mind, let's go back to our Zapier step. So let's just quickly repeat. When someone subscribes to Mailchimp, we're going to post to PassKit. Now we need to customize the request. So this is the URL that we'd be posting to. So if you look again in the API documentation, in the right top here, you can see for enroll new member, there's the post here. If I click on this, I get the full URL that I want to use. Now, back to here. What is the payload that we're posting? Our API is a JSON API. So again, you can see the content type from here, application JSON. We're posting JSON, and then what is it that we want to post? Now, if we look at the API documentation, we need to put tier ID and program ID. Those are mandatory. So that's the two fields that I've set here first. Program ID, tier ID. Program ID, we just hard-coded in here because for this case, we always want to enroll into this program. And tier ID equally, like we hard-coded in here. So you would have to set up different audiences if you want to enroll into different tiers. That there's not really any logic you can do here that based on certain criteria. So what you could do if you want to in Mailchimp have different tiers. Let's say you take a payment somewhere, and after they complete payment, they get added to a Mailchimp list. So you could have a different list for silver, for bronze, for gold, etc. There's some other stuff to the process that you have here. Then the person email address, the way that these webhooks work here, if there is a nested JSON object, and a nested JSON is essentially when you have deeper level objects. So this is what we call the root object. So any fields here sit in the root, but anything under person will be nested. They all belong to the person object. So here I would have person.surname or person.forename. Here I have a nested object for metadata. Here I have a nested object for pass override. So all this stuff you can set in the payload, but we're just setting very basic stuff here. Now the way that Zapier deals with nested objects is by 2 times underscore. So they mentioned underneath here as well. But in order for us to go to the email address in person, we need to do person __ email address, which then matches up with what we have here in PassKit. So we get person, and then we have email address here. There you go. And then the same goes for display name. So in this case, you can simply click in the field. What this is going to do, this is going to show you all the options that it got in from the Mailchimp subscribe event. So you see there's a lot of data here that Mailchimp passes on. I'm not going to highlight all of it. The ones I'm interested in is just the email address and the name, which is what I capture in Mailchimp. So I've set email here, and for this one I've set name. And these ones we can leave as is. So this is untouched, this is untouched, this is untouched. Now this is kind of a key thing here. Our enroll members endpoint, since it's via the API, is not a public endpoint. It's a private endpoint that you need to be authenticated. Now this looks very, very scary. But don't worry if you're not too experienced with APIs. Ultimately, what this does is this tells us that the person who's making the API call is authorized to make so, and this token you can only get from our API setting. So you need to be logged into your account. You can go to settings. Under settings, you can go to integration, and under integration, we have something called a long-lived integration token. If you click on this, you need to authenticate again. So I'm just gonna log in with password again, generate the API token, and this token is what I use to put in the header. Now the way our API is modeled is that the header that we need to set is authorization, and the long-lived token you need to prefix with the word bearer. I'm not going to dive into the technical detail of that, but that's the format of authorization or authentication that we need for the API. So copy paste your long-lived token from the settings, paste it in here, prefix it with bearer. This is important. If you don't put bearer space in front of it, it's not going to work. That's it. Now, once that is done, and if Zapier already does a test here, so they run a test, and our API then returns the unique PassKit ID. This PassKit ID, what I want to do next, so we've taken a subscriber, we've created a pass record, but now I want to add that ID or that unique PassKit URL back onto the Mailchimp record. So in Mailchimp, you can also see the details from the PassKit one. So the first thing we do, all that the API returns us is the ID. So we need to get the full member object to kind of get the rest of the data. So the second thing we do is another webhook, but this time we do a GET request to get the member. If I go into the developer documentation, then under members, you can also see that there is a get member endpoint, get member record by PassKit ID. And this endpoint conforms to this format. And you can just copy paste this again, and we're going to need that in the next step. So here I'm choosing the app. Again, the app that we're setting this app up for is Webhooks by Zapier. And the action event is a get in this case. It's important that you use the correct HTTP method. Customize request. Now, as you can see from the documentation, this requires a dynamic field, which is the ID. So if we go back here, we have this URL here, but then the end is the dynamic field. So what you can do in Zapier here is you can just start typing the URL, and it does insert data here. Now, what we need to do is we need to get the ID that was returned in step 2 from the create. So we can click on step 2 post, and then it already preloads the ID for you. It's super simple. So you just select that. We don't need to append any other query parameters. We don't need to send it as JSON. It's just a GET request. So this we can all just leave empty. And again, here at the base step, we add the authorization header with the same token from before. That's that. And then send data is it's going to do, we can do a test, retest, and review. So this is just picking up the data from what we had before. Cool. And then the last step is we have gotten the member record now. So first step was catch the subscribe, create the member record, get the record. And then the last thing we need to do is we want to now update the subscriber Mailchimp. So as you can see in here, we have these blank fields. So in my Mailchimp settings, if I go here to audience fields and merge, I've added a few custom fields that I wanted to capture. I've added PassKit URL, PassKit points, PassKit tier, and PassKit status. Now I've just given these names that I found usable, but ultimately what this allows me to do is kind of expand a little bit on this contact record, so we add some additional data in there. So what I want to do is after I create the pass in PassKit, I then also want to update this with the unique PassKit URL for this member. The point is going to be 0. I want to put the tier name in there, which is going to be bronze, and I want to put the status in there, which in this case is just going to be issued because it's a new pass. So again, what app do we want to do? We want to add update subscriber Mailchimp, so we're going to say Mailchimp add update subscriber. We again click our account. Then we want to customize the subscriber. So the audience is required, which is PassKit Inc. Subscriber email, and we grab this from step 1. So here you see this the previous 3 steps. So we can just say subscriber email needs to come from new subscriber Mailchimp. So new subscriber Mailchimp. I can search here for email. That's hooked up. We don't need to do anything with the opt-in. We want to update the existing records, replace groups. You can do all this stuff to the subscriber record. I'm not going to touch any of that. I'm just going to set the fields. At the bottom here, you can see that there is name. Again, this pulls what do we want the name to be on update. Now we just got the pass record in step 3, the member record. So we're going to update from there. So in here, I'm going to search for name. So let's use a person display name. Then the PassKit URL. The PassKit URL, the unique pass URL is always prefixed by HTTPS pub1.passkit.io/the pass ID or the member ID. So this ID, again, I pull it from my get payload. It's just a PassKit ID that we put in there. In here, I've mapped this to the points field from step 3. So all of this data comes from my get member, call it in the previous step. Map this to the tier, which is bronze. Map this to the status. And that's that. That's all of that then hooked up. So that's for enrolling. So Mailchimp to PassKit, turn it off because I made changes to it. Now then the second thing that we want to do is when something happens in PassKit. So when, for example, we capture that the pass was installed or we make a change in PassKit, we also then want to update that audience data in Mailchimp. So we want to update the points, the tier, the status field when something happens, right? In sync contact data here. So to do that, we need to create a second zap in Zapier. And I've already done that here. It's called update Mailchimp from PassKit pass update install hook. So in here, what we want to do is we want to, when this happened, catch hook. So in this case, we're going to set up PassKit to post to a Zapier webhook. So we use the app Webhooks by Zapier. Choose trigger event. We want to catch a hook, and that's important. We want to catch a hook. So we basically, Zapier is waiting for us to post something. Zapier will then give you this URL, custom webhook URL to post to. Now, if I go back into my program here, under settings, if you go back to integrations, there is something here called webhooks, and you can look at the other video I've done on Zapier that explains this in a bit more detail. But ultimately what it comes down to is there is a list of events here, and I want something to happen. I want to post something to this endpoint when something happens in PassKit. So in this case, notify me when a pass is updated by the user, or notify me when a pass is installed. So when the card's being installed in my wallet, I want to send an event, and when I make a change here as an admin, I want to also send that into Zapier. So this is already set up. I'll update this. We don't need to touch any of this stuff here. Find data. Zapier is going to ask you to post here, and it's just going to use this data here. So again, we can see here that Zapier, for nested objects, it uses these double underscores. And again, I went into detail in my previous video on how to capture data here from data being posted into Zapier. But then ultimately what we want to do is we want to get that data, and we want to update the subscriber with that. So Mailchimp, add update subscriber, choose account, Mailchimp PassKit, customize subscriber. So the subscriber email is unique here. So we grab the email address from the payload that we get from PassKit. So remember, in the PassKit record, we have the email because we've created that, or we've set that when we created this particular member. So that data is also fed back by PassKit into Zapier. So grab the email, set the other fields. So we want to set the display name, we want to set the point balance, the tier, the status, and that's that. And then all that data is hooked up, and you can just enable the two zaps, and we can see it in action once more. Let's do another one with Patrick, test 2. Subscribe. So we should see this person here. Yeah, you can already see that's already gone through the flow, because we instantly already see here the URL, we see the points, tier, we see the issued. I just got the email come in on my phone, so I'm just going to install the pass again from my phone. That's the card installed. So now we can reload this, and we should then also see the status update in here. Yep, status update to installed. Now one more time. See our new member record here, still in bronze. We're going to edit this. We're going to add points. Change the tier to gold. Update. Member updated. Go back to our Mailchimp list, and ta-da, this is updated. 6,780 points, tier gold. So that's that. Super simple, super easy to use, and really, really powerful. Mailchimp is just one of the thousands of applications that Zapier has to offer, so you'll be able to integrate or support any of your integration needs.